Okay. It sounds like the same gentleman, Mr. Eric Rydholm, will be crafting something, cooking something up with ESPN. He's going to continue to run PTI. It sounds like PTI is. I mean, I've always assumed that show will just exist until Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser say it's not going to exist. I mean, you'll
Right.
have to rip it from their bones at a certain point if you wanted to cancel it. But what should go here? What should be that lead into PTI? What can replace Around the Horn? Where are we looking starting next summer for the replacement?
Yeah, it's interesting because you posed this to me off air, and I really struggled with coming up with anything because I felt like Around the Horn, it's just so synonymous with PTI. Like those were my afternoons coming home from middle school and high school. Was 5 o'clock, you watch Around the Horn, and then 5:30 you watch PTI. And so it's hard
Well,
to really
hold
think.
on. Do you have a favorite Around the Horn panelist? If you actually watched it
I mean, that's the thing, is like I haven't watched it on a consistent basis
in so
since back
long,
then. Yeah,
so
that's
you're
like
not.
what
Yeah,
that's what it seemed like a lot of the like social media posts like about it were like a lot of people like bemoaning it leaving, but also a lot of people who hadn't watched it since 2008. So,
I think I'm
um,
the only person who watches that show in America. Maybe it might be just made for me at this point because I am always on Shifted Awful announcing with it on in the background. I may be the only one. I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm trying to
With all
think
due
of who.
respect, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's going away. I I'd go with like an OG like Woody Page, I guess, just because I think like
Hmm.
that's where that like energy for the show was first kind of harnessed, and I think that's what kind of gave its legs, that chemistry he had with Jay Mariotti and Tim Kalishaw and those guys early on. So I guess I'd go Woody Page. What about you?
Yeah, I like the kind of the OGs for sure. Um, Probably I like the more curmudgeonly. So whether it's Woody Page or Bob Ryan or Bill Plashke, probably one of those three just at least feels like it
Yeah,
epitomized the show the best, which is just cranky columnist with hardly ever a positive take to give. And I know it's not that anymore, but that would probably be my direction as well. But back to our original question. Do you
yeah.
have an idea? Do you have a memo to send Eric Rydholm for what should replace this?
I mean, just because it is Eric Rydholm, and I kind of wanted to stay in the Eric Rydholm universe, my first
Mm-hmm.
thought was just bring back Levitard and bring back highly questionable, but I don't think that's realistic, and I don't think my answer is realistic either. But my answer was bring back High Noon with Pablo Torre and Bomani Jones, maybe adjust it, make it a little less. I don't want to say shtick based because I don't think it was shticky, but I do think they were at times trying to go outside the box for the sake of going outside the box. And so maybe just fit it into like a younger version of PTI, which is ultimately what I think it was striving to be. But yeah, I mean, that was my first take, my first thought, because I do think you want something that fits the ethos of PTI without it necessarily being PTI.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You don't want it to feel so out of place while you're still. I mean, look, the people who watch this show and watch PTI still care about like programming on a cable channel. There's not a lot of us do anymore, but like if you're tuning this into this stuff, you probably care. I didn't go here with my views from the subreddit, but the ESPN subreddit is absolutely filled with just old guys who are mad that anything has ever changed about ESPN since 1998. So that is probably the type of people that would care about this whole lead in concept. I think the real answer might just be that they put a podcast in this slot. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know if they would do that on real ESPN, but they've already basically filled ESPN2 all day, every day with this kind of content. Um, I just went with another thing from the Ride Home universe, this super producer, and he produced Jesus and Mero on Showtime back before their breakup. I don't think they'll reunite here. I'm not doing the Bomani Pablo reuniting thing like you here, but I will just say something like with one of those two, a little bit more comedic, just a half hour. I don't know if it works in the middle of the day like that, but whatever. I think that, maybe in the spirit of they're doing a Jason Kelsey late night show, maybe they get a little more creative here. But I think it either has to be super journalistic or super silly, like one or the other here, and just kind of see if it sticks.
I mean, what do we, I mean, realistically, like it probably will be a podcast. Like we both, you and I both kind of have pie in the sky ideas. I think like what it will be is going to actually be interesting. Like, cause I think it was really tough to kind of think about like, what do you even put there? Like one of my thoughts was like, just extend PTI to an hour. And I don't think that's realistic either. So maybe you
make
bump
those guys
PTI
work more in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah. So maybe you bump PTI up to 5 and then I don't start Sports Center a half hour early. Like I just don't know like what you even do there.
Yeah, I am not sure either. If you were to ask me if there's any ESPN talent who deserves their own show right now, or who like feels next, there's just not a lot left. But I would say probably Elle Duncan.
Yeah.
And she hosts that Sports Center, so maybe there's something to that. But who knows?